Erica Lynn Speaks podcast is a place where you can grow beyond your limitations and make an impact on the world. I am Erica Lynn. I will teach you how to take the restraints off of you, begin to live free, and become unstoppable. Go to ericalynnspeaks.com.
I say Erica Lynn Speaks. Erica Lynn Speaks.
Well, hello. This is your girl, Erica Lynn, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. Y'all know we like to play big or go home, right? If you're not ready to grow to your next level, then you're not ready for me, right? Because we playing big over here on Erica Lynn Speaks. Man, I'm so excited because God is in the blessing business. When I tell you every week, He's blessing me, He's blessing the business, He's blessing the podcast, and He's blessing everybody that I am connected to. So I'm excited. Y'all come on and get some of that blessing, right? I'm just pouring it out through the TV, right? Through the podcast. Well, I'm telling you, let's see. We had Damaris Johnson's on here. We had Portia Lockett on here. We had Juanita Rasmus on here. And then last week, we had the one and only Nicole Roberts. And I'm telling you, they just been dropping gems and nuggets and gems. If you guys have not been taking notes, I don't know what podcast that you guys have been watching because you have not been watching this one. I've been able to take some of the information that was given on this podcast, utilize it in my personal life, utilize it in my business. But in any event, I have been walking in alignment what I was called to do. So the reason why I bring these guests on here so that they can give you a fresh perspective, give you a fresh wind. I remember when Pastor Leon spoke, he talked about blowing fresh wind. And that part always stuck with me, right? Because when you're playing big, you're going to always need some fresh wind. You're going to need some perspective. You're going to need people praying over you. You're going to need people in your corner supporting you. And so that's why I bring this podcast and bring the guests on here so that you could not only get that fresh wind, but you get a perspective and you get support from me, Erica Lynn, because they're giving you nothing but tools and nuggets that you can use in your life. Well, today I got a special guest, you guys. I'm so excited because I've always wanted to be a writer. You guys know I wrote the 7 Techniques of Healing. But when I read some of this book, I'm telling you, your eye pales in comparison to the things that came out in this book. So I'm going to do the introduction from my guest. I am bringing on the one and only Breena Clarke. She's the co-author of the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, I'm Speaking Now. She is also the author of 3 novels. The most recently published, Angels Make Their Hope Here, is set in an imagined mixed race community in 19th century New Jersey. Breena Clarke's debut novel, River Cross My Heart, was in October 1999. It was in the Oprah Winfrey Book Club, y'all. Y'all know when Oprah puts something out there, it grow, and everybody all over know about your book once you hit the Oprah's Book Club. It was also published by Publishers Weekly as one of the 7 essential books about Washington, D.C. She is co-founder of the Hobart Festival of Women's Writers and is on the fiction faculty of Stone Coast MFA in creative writing at the University of Southern Maine since 2013. So I did enough yapping, y'all. Y'all heard me do enough introduction, but I'm just gonna stop talking and bring my guests on. So y'all give a big hand, a round of applause, and help me join the one and only Breena Clarke.
Hi, how you doing, Erica Lynn?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
That's wonderful. First of all, I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast. I really, really appreciate you coming in here to drop some nuggets to my audience.
Well, I'm happy to be here because I want to tell them about this book. I'm very happy to be part of this project. And it's an exciting book. So I want to share it with as many people as possible.
Yes. I have to tell you, because we're going to be talking about the book. So I got the book in the mail. Okay. Pam Perry sent me the book. Thank you for the book. And my book is not signed, so I'll be looking for you to sign my book, okay? So that means our paths have to cross again, okay?
Yes, that's right.
But you did such a commendable thing by pulling individuals together to help, write in the book. But before I go there, I just want to know, how did you get involved with Chicken Soup for the Soul? That's a heck of a name, first of all. How did you get involved, and where did the name come from?
Well, that series has been around for a long time. The series includes books on a number of themes. I think there are up to 5 books published each year in the series Chicken Soup for the Soul. It is this book was created as an opportunity, as a platform for Black women to speak about their lives specifically.
Okay.
And so what we have here is a book that's composed of 101 personal essays, narratives, 101 different stories. They're also grouped with poems. We've got up to 12 poems because we did get poetry submissions. And we have grouped each of the stories in thematic groupings.
Okay.
So it's really a very exciting mix of viewpoints,
Yes. Yes.
stories. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I really I started reading it, and I said, oh, because everybody know every other Friday I go to get my nails and my toes done. That's not me, right? But my nail tech, he was gracious enough to book me an hour or two out, so now I no longer have to rush off the podcast. And so I said, tonight when I get to the shop, I'm going to be sitting there reading more of this book, because what I read so far has touched me and has blessed me to hear the stories that I've read that are coming from other African American women that experience the same things or different, but just their perspective of their experiences. And so I want to know, why this book and why now?
Well, the time is now. That's why now. Because I think now we have people who are interested to know what our specific experiences have been in American society. And the time is now. It's not as if we haven't been speaking in the past. It's not as if we haven't been activists and that we haven't raised our voices. But it has been that we've been disrespected and we have been ignored. And now I think the time is ripe to listen to the specific point of view of Black women. I think we do have people who are interested. There are other sisters, other Black women who are interested in people throughout the country. There are people in the wider community, in the white community and other ethnicities, who want to know about some of the specifics of the oppression that we have endured in American society.
Yes.
And so that's why I think the time is now.
Yes. Now is the greatest time as any. Now is when I was reading through the book, you just kept saying now, and certain parts of the now, and it just really made me think about, now is the time. If you have a dream, right, to go after your dream, whatever your vision is, let's do it now. Why do we have to wait 5 or 10 years from now? Do it now, right? And so if we're going to tell our story, let's tell it now. I have friends of all ethnicities, and I'm sure you do as well. And when the pandemic hit, and then we went with George Floyd and all of the racial things that we experienced, I had a really, really good girlfriend of mine, and she reached out to me and she was like, "You're not going to stop being my friend." Absolutely not. I love her to pieces. I love her to pieces. But the fact that she wanted to inquire and ask questions and know about our history or things that I've experienced, that held a lot of volume with me as well. But have you had those similar experiences?
Yes, I have. I have had that experience. There have been people, friends, people who are not themselves Black women who've read the book and said, oh, I understand some things I never understood before. I've had the experience, of course, of reading the book and saying, oh, my goodness, how many of us have had to go through that? I always mention the part about driving while Black, but I reflect on how often I circumscribed my behavior behind the wheel because I didn't want to get into an undignified interaction with law enforcement. So
Yes.
I recognize that in some of the stories. But also I was thinking, Erica, this afternoon, you you say Erica Lynn speaks,
Yes.
and that's an assertion of you as an individual, and that you are taking ownership of what you say and how you speak. And I think, in a very real way, the women who've contributed to this volume have done the same thing. They've said, this is my story and I'm sharing it with you. And so they're taking ownership of their lives. And to me, that's very important as well.
Yes, absolutely. Man, I'm telling you, my daughter had called and I said, I have to prepare for the speaker and I have to make sure I'm well versed. So let me read. And I read the first story to her in the book, the
Mm-hmm,
very
mm-hmm,
first story.
mm-hmm.
And just from reading, and I read it with so much emphasis. I was sitting there like, oh my God. Oh my God. Because I really totally didn't know truly what to expect out of the book. Like I knew it was mind blowing. I knew Pam wouldn't be out here, being your publicist if you wasn't full of integrity and you were powerful. But words cannot describe what is in this book. Words cannot describe how it made me feel from just reading the first story alone. So my hats go off to you and all of the 101 ladies that participated in this book. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad you felt that way, and I'm glad you felt strongly about the book. And you also touched on something that I think is another valuable reason to get a copy of this book, maybe get two, so you can give one to your sister or your aunt or your mother. But you you can read this book, dip into it a little bit each night if that's how you like to do it. If you want to stick it in your bag and take it with you when you're commuting, it's the kind of book that you can visit and revisit and revisit. And I think you'll find something new and rewarding each time you open it up. I'm enormously proud of it and have just been very pleased with the response that we've had so far.
Yes, yes. You know, I have to show them the cover, right? Usually
Oh,
we go through
yes.
all of this at the end of the
Uh-huh.
podcast, but I want to show it throughout the podcast, if that's all
Okay.
right with you. And
Oh, yeah,
first of
that's
all,
great.
if you guys are watching this podcast and you're just joined in for the first time, I have the one and only Breena Clarke here, and she has the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. So make sure that you share this podcast so that somebody else can be blessed by this book. So I'm just going to put the book up there,
Yeah,
and I want you
good.
to tell them how they're going to get this book.
Well, the book is going to be available just about everywhere beginning June 1st. And of course, you can pre order. So, what I suggest you do is go on the Chicken Soup for the Soul website, and it's chickensoupforthesoul.com. Go on the website. You can search for I'm Speaking Now. You'll see it, and it will have directions on how you can order your book. You can get it from Walmart. They have a very large order. Target will be carrying it. It'll be available through Amazon, of course, but it's also available through your independent bookstore. We've sent out information to over 200 independent African American bookstores throughout the country to let them know this book is coming. So all you'll have to do is call up your favorite neighborhood independent bookstore and ask them to get you a copy. it will be available everywhere. So,
Yes.
yep.
That's wonderful. I always allow my audience to ask questions. So you guys feel free to jump in anytime. Let us know who you are, where you're chiming in from, and whatever questions that you have for Miss Clarke. Please feel free to ask your questions because we enjoy audience participation, right? That just makes the podcast even more
Yes.
fun and live. And so I want to know is I've noticed that you had a lot of poetry in the book as well, from Amanda Gorman style. So tell me a little bit more about the poetry that you put in the book.
Well, poetry, I feel, has always been, and it's just a known fact, poetry has been a part of African American activism always, beginning from our very first poet, Phyllis Wheatley. Anyway, our poetry is part of our activism, and we received a number of poems. And this collection also includes a poem by my own sister, the poet Cheryl Clarke. Her poem "Curating" is a part of this collection. But we included the poems because we didn't want to give up the opportunity to include them as well. So we've paired each poem with a thematic grouping of stories, and it's worked out pretty well. It's worked out very well.
Yes.
I think that now is a time where there is increased interest in poetry, especially performance poetry, spoken word poetry, of course. And Amanda Gorman was just the most exciting example of
Yes.
performance poetry in a very long time.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing that you said that, right? Because when the pandemic hit, I always wanted to do a motivational album, right? Everybody knows me as the motivational speaker. And I called my son in Taiwan. I said, "Can you send me some beats?" And he did so. And so I said, "I need a studio." So he referred me to a studio and I wrote the words. And I went into the studio at the very beginning of the pandemic. And I did 7 pieces on an album called Never Give Up. And it's a motivational album. However, there is no column for motivational album, so they classified it as spoken word, and I never thought about it. But there are so many powerful pieces in that. I said, "Oh, so I'm a spoken word."
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And you know the ties between spoken word and rap lyrics. I mean, there's an awful lot of creativity out there, and sometimes the word poetry, people are a little put off by that word because they think it has to be very formal. But
Right.
poetry can reach us from all kinds of sources, and it's definitely been a part of African American activism.
Absolutely. So we had Sheila. So hi, Sheila. Sheila's one of my clients. She is a retired principal, and she's also written books and is getting her, programs off the ground. So thank you for joining us, Sheila. If you have some questions for Breena Clarke, please feel free to ask them. Yes. So I mean, this is amazing. But I did notice that you have different themes in the book. Can you tell me a little bit about the different themes that's in the book?
Well, as I say, we got a number of submissions, and we were very pleased with them. And they sort of sorted themselves along certain themes. And the recurring themes were raising our children, dealing with the police, Black people and law enforcement, um, loving Black men and boys. That's a theme. Um, Learning traditions from our ancestors. There are a lot of thematic groupings, and we've put the essays together in that way.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I just even glancing through the book, I was like, wow, these women look powerful. They're beautiful Black women. Well, like just the pictures, I was like, oh, I want to meet them. And so I noticed that you had a lot of HBCUs
Yes.
in this book. Let's talk a little bit about the HBCUs that participated in this book as well.
Well, we didn't start out necessarily to solicit primarily from the HBCUs, but we got a lot of submissions. And I'm very proud to say I'm a Howard University alum, as is my husband and my oldest sister. So we have a family tradition of Howard University attendance. And it was really thrilling, well, extremely thrilling, when Kamala Harris ascended to her position, and other people representing HBCUs have accomplished so much. So it was thrilling to see so many submissions from women from the HBCU institutions, and to read of their accomplishments and to read their personal narratives. It was really thrilling, very exciting for me.
Yes, yes. So you have two stories in this book as well.
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Can you
do.
tell us about your two stories?
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about them. One of my stories, which is in a section about ancestors and traditions, is really about the kind of interesting discovery I uncovered about, I guess, about 6 months ago. Has been much more than that. I was contacted through a friend about a webinar that was being conducted about genealogical research into a member of my extended family. And so I discovered my great grandfather. His name is Alfred Clarke. And I discovered that my great grandfather was emancipated in 18, it would have been 1863, under the Compensated Emancipation Act in the District of Columbia. And if you've read my second novel, Stand the Storm, you'll know that that's really at the heart of the plot of that novel. And I had written about this long before I realized that one of my relatives had been freed under this provision. And I always like to mention that that Compensated Emancipation Act didn't give any money to the enslaved person. All the money came to the slave owner, just so people know. So, but it was very exciting for me to find out that an historical event had also involved my direct ancestor.
Wow.
The second story I wrote about a childhood friend who suffered traumatic events. And well, we were best friends. I mean, I began by saying we discovered the Beatles together, and that, of course, dates me, but we did. And I didn't realize the traumatic events that were taking place in her household. And so I'm writing about that in a way to, well, I don't know what I'm trying to do, but I just wanted to write about those traumatic events
Yeah.
and how they affected a girl who grew up on the same street that I grew up on.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad that you shared stories about your ancestry and your experiences, because I did when I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I touched on one of the points. One of the points that I touched on was share your story. Tell your
Mm-hmm.
story. Tell your story to your children, your
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren. Everyone's connected to you. Because how are we going to know what you went through if you don't tell us your story, right? How are we going to learn about perseverance and that life doesn't come easy if you don't tell us your story? Like, if you
Yes.
don't share what happened to you or the people that was in your time, we won't know. And I say it all the time, and I'm always going to say it. Women of this generation, we don't know what it's like to stick by a man. I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to pack my stuff and I'm going to leave. Right. So we don't know. Well, we don't know that how much you have to pour into him as well as he poured into us, because we really weren't giving those stories that
Mm-hmm.
granddaddy was an alcoholic or he used to gamble. And grandma, she picked up the slack for probably about 2 years. Then granddaddy got himself together. Grandma, she stepped out there too. But in the end, they worked it out together because they love allowed them to stay together.
Right.
We just see like the big picture, like they was together for 40 years and we don't know all of the meat and potatoes. But we learn a lot of that stuff when you tell your story.
Well, also, Erica Lynn, it's even bigger than that. And that's the truth. What
Yes.
about the Tulsa massacre?
Yes.
For nearly 100 years, the true story of those events has not been told. And now people are beginning to speak of that. And just think of all of the decades of lives that were affected by those events, and that it wasn't spoken about, not taught in the histories, not even acknowledged, that it takes someone who's 107 years old to come to Congress and talk about what happened 100 years ago. And a woman, I was watching a documentary, and the person talked about hush history. And I think that is something that we have. We are less frank with our children because some things we don't want to share, but we're going to have to just be sharing. We have to share this history with our children.
Yes. And this generation is just not like the generations before. They don't feel the same way my grandmother felt. You don't have to look. Listen, you know how even before social media came, right? Everything was a private. You can creep out in the streets and do your thing. They don't have no shame in their game. Everything is on social media. If they doing it, they gonna tell it. If you creeping, you gonna get caught, whatever it is. And so secrets is not something that sits with this generation. But I'm going to jump in with Sheila. She had said to you, hey, I used to write poetry many years ago. And then she asked you a question, which is it necessary to have words rhyme all the time when you're writing poetry?
Oh, absolutely not. I'm not much of a poet myself. As I say, my sister is. She's fabulous. But I would say, Sheila, absolutely not. There are a lot of prose poems that exist. They certainly do not rhyme. And there are so many different forms of poetry. So what I'd suggest to you, get in a group, go on in a group with some people and experiment. So no is the short answer to that. No, it doesn't have to.
Right, because I don't think my stuff rhyme either, but it's impactful, it's powerful, and you get the point across. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to pursue writing books, writing journals, or whatever they want to write?
Well, my advice is really simple and also a little boring. But what I tell people, because people will ask you, is that you just have to sit down and do it. It's one of those things where you make up your mind. And then when you make up your mind, don't unmake it. Don't say, oh, no, maybe I shouldn't. Once you say, yes, I'm going in this direction, keep on going. Keep on going. Don't turn around. Write your way to where you'd like to be. And don't let anything thwart you. So my advice is, as I tell people, and they always laugh, is the Nike advice. And that is just do it. What should I? Just do it.
That's right.
When should I do it? Just do it. How should I do it?
That's right. I mean, and you know what? And I always have to come from a point of personal testimony. I never passed English class, right? When I was in high school, I dropped out of high school when I was 16 years old. And then I went back and got my GED. And so I went to college one time, dropped out again. And when I was 35 years old is when I finally went to college and completed. But I had to address that doggone English class again. And I really, really sucked at English. So I paid my daughter and my niece to help write my papers and make it through English class, right? But the reason is, listen, Breena, the reason is when my teacher or somebody would ask me to write a paragraph, I would totally hyperventilate. And this is like, it was almost like I was having panic attacks and anxiety. So now here we are in 2018. God said, okay, well, I'm going to birth a business out of you. I'm going to birth you to change lives. Now my team says, oh, it's time for you to write a book. I said, woo, write a book. So do you know I got challenged and I wrote the book. Nobody helped me. Matter of fact, and I took her out to lunch a couple weeks ago. I was hiring somebody to ghostwrite. And when she set up to ghostwrite, I couldn't even get my story together. She said, you all over the place. I can't even ghostwrite for you. When you get yourself together, call me. I never called her back because God forced me to go in my office. And I got up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and I wrote. And when I finished 45 days later, I wrote a book. I wrote a book by myself. And I said, so there's no limits to what you could do. If a person who hates writing, now is an author, creating programs, speaking on stages, and my English is so bad, Breena, but I don't even care. I still get up there and speak. Because guess what? I'm called to the people who don't care about speaking correct English, and I'm making a difference in their life. And so you are absolutely correct for whoever it is. If you want to pursue writing, just get up and do it. Don't make excuses. Don't say, oh, I can't do it because I didn't go to English class. Because guess what? Erica Lynn didn't. My book is all over the world.
Well, there have been so many women who've accomplished so much that you always have to say, well, I guess I can get up there. I know the Nigerian novelist Buchi Emecheta, she had 8 children and she wrote a whole lot of really wonderful novels. So there's no excuse. And Toni Morrison raised 2 children herself and wrote all those wonderful books. So you see, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. If you want it, you got to do it.
Yes. Hi, Marva. We see Marva joined us, but we didn't get a message. We're acknowledging you, Marva. How you doing? I'm so appreciative of the ladies that come in every week because they show me that the things that advice that you gave today, they're the ones that's using it. And that makes me feel good for even showing up every week to do this podcast. But I really want to know what makes you show up to do what you do.
Well, I really enjoy, now my work primarily is fiction. I write novels. I have published 3. I've just finished working on another. So this book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, I'm speaking now. Black women share their truths in 101 stories of love, courage, and hope, which is that very long, inclusive title. This is a little bit of a departure for me because I usually write fiction. And so this has been a very rewarding passion project for me. And so I've enjoyed working on this simply because I've enjoyed reading the stories that the women have sent in, that they submitted, and pulling them together in a cohesive book that others can share. I think it's a very good book, and so I'm excited by that. And as for my other work, my fiction work, I just enjoy it. I just like making up stories. But I also enjoy trying to create African American characters that reflect the complexity of American history, not just, the cardboard characters, but real people. And I feel that very keenly. And so that's what keeps me up, getting up. Wow. I enjoy that.
Well, that's wonderful because I've learned a lot from you alone. I'm not the one that knows all, and I probably should have paid attention a lot more when I was in school. So God has given me an opportunity to learn the things that I should have learned in school through my guests. So thank you for schooling me also. I'm always transparent about when I don't know something, I don't know it, but I'm open to learning it because you're never too old to learn something definitely about your history, right?
Definitely.
And so Alicia says, hi, Alicia.
Hi, Alicia.
And then Marva got her word. Thank you, Marva. She says, great show again. Thank you, Marva, so much. We always appreciate you tuning in. So let me tell you, I'm still stuck on this first story, right? And I just kind of want to read a paragraph if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Go ahead.
And so I didn't get to like pencil it out, but there's a story in here by what's her name? So are they names at the back of the story? Let me see. By Kamala Reese. Right. Okay, by Kamala Reese. And Kamala Reese told a story about when she was a little girl, how the boy that she went to school with just said, I can't say your name, is too hard, so I'm not going to call your name anymore. And so he started calling her black girl. And so when she got up to go to school the next day, he addressed her, hey, black girl, hey, black girl. And so one of the parts where they were going back and forth, she says, I'm not even black. I'm more like Sienna. I responded in earnest while inspecting my arms. If you're not white, you're black, he shrugged. I continued I continue my inspection. Black girl, did you hear what I said? If you're not white, you're black. His words were slow and drawn out as if I couldn't understand. I hated my intelligence being questioned. You're really dumb. That doesn't even make sense. There are plenty of shades between black and white, I retorted. My mama told me that, so it doesn't make sense. Guess your mama's dumb too then. I suggested and then his face grew red, and what I said churned his mind, and finally he was feeling what I felt. And so it just like when I had to read it online, I read the whole story with so much impact and empowerment, because that is just a sample of what African American individuals went through in their life, and learning to accept their blackness and who they are. And that's in any shade, right? Even with my complexion, I still had my experiences just like somebody else, because all people always say, oh, you act, one way or this and another. And for me, I wanted to fit in with the black people. So I had to like get cool and kind of, that's probably how my dialect got so bad, because I was really trying to fit in and be accepted with other individuals, and I could not help that I was fair skinned, and no matter how much I stood in the sun, it kind of didn't turn me dark. But anyway, just being able to accept who you are, and it's powerful when you're able to share your story, because you're not the only one that went through and had an experience.
I think that's extremely important, Erica Lynn. And I think that is one of the important aspects of this book, that there are a wide range of experiences here. So we have had a wide range of experiences in American culture. But we are also being oppressed by institutional racism. And I think that many of our stories speak to this as well. They speak to the institutional racism. And that is something that the wider audience needs to understand, that we come to our jobs and also we come to medical institutions, educational institutions, and we have to wonder at how we're going to be received, how we're going to be treated, how we're going to be spoken to, and if we're going to be helped or not.
Yeah.
This is very important. And so many of the stories reflect that. And I don't want to give the impression that all of the stories are gloomy, because they're not. Even the story that you read, there is, a little bit of humor in almost all of the stories. And I think that's also one of the nicer things. One of the things that I like about the story, the entire book, is that we included, for each story, we included a quote from an historical woman or a contemporary woman. So we run the gamut. We've got a whole lot of people. I keep saying we've got Beyonce and Zora Neale Hurston, which is true. We've got Anna Julia Cooper, and we've got Michelle Obama.
Yes.
We have a lot of quotes in there. Each story has one at the top, which sort of references themes and topics in the story that follows. And so they're as lovely a read as any other aspect of the book. So I think it's a very value added volume.
Yeah.
And it'll make a very lovely gift if you
Yeah.
have someone you can think of.
Right. So I got to put it back on the screen, and I'm gonna put the
Oh,
picture up.
great.
And so, so before I let you get out of here, there's two things that you have to do. Of course, you have to
Mm-hmm.
tell them how they can get the book and where they can get the book from. And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing that you must do that I love when my guests leave a nugget, like leave someone with some information that when they walk away and they say, Breena left this nugget, it left such a powerful impact on them that either A, they was like, I gotta walk in my purpose, I gotta write a book, I gotta do something, or I gotta learn more about my history. Whatever your nugget is, please leave it and tell them how that they can reach you as well.
Okay. All right. Well, you can certainly reach me at www.breenaclarke.com. You can get information, specific information about the book at chickensoup.com. So be sure and go on to, yes, there's the website, and you get all of the information about the book. And what I would leave you with is the an exhortation. Just as this book is entitled, I'm Speaking Now, I'd like each person who has joined us for this podcast to think about what you would say given the opportunity to speak. What what would you say? And embrace that, and please write that and keep it close where you can continue to look at that and give yourself the exhortation to speak now, to speak clearly, but above all, to speak.
Let me tell you, I don't know if I wanted to shout or cry. Oh my God, my God, my God. That's all I can say is like I don't even have a comeback. I don't even have anything to say after that. You left me speechless. And so you guys, if you want to follow Breena on social media, she's on Twitter
Mhm.
and on Instagram, Chicken Soup Soul on Twitter, Chicken Soup Soul on Instagram, and on Facebook as well. Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, this is what I can say. You just fed my soul. You fed
Good,
my soul.
good.
Oh my God! Like you, you have really empowered me today because there's some things that God is walking me into. There's some doors that is opening for me right now as we speak. And because sometimes the devil like get on his shoulder and we'll be a little hesitant. But as you said, right now
Yeah,
is the time.
do it
Now is
now.
the time. And I love the sound of your voice. I need to just record your voice and just play it back.
Girl.
I'm a mess.
Yeah.
I'm a mess. Yes, I'm a mess. And so, anyway, I thank you so much for coming on to my podcast.
Yo,
You
this has
know,
been
you are
fun.
a great friend to the podcast. If you have anything else new coming up, please come on back and, and share with the audience. We'd love to have you back again on Erica Lynn Speaks
I
podcast.
sure will. I sure will. I've enjoyed being here speaking with you, Erica Lynn.
Thank you
Thanks
so.
for having me.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be sending you DMs from the nail chair, like, oh,
Yeah.
Brenda, this is good. This is good. Yes, yes. And you're absolutely right. I do have to reiterate, even though the story was talking about her experience, however, it did have a great ending as far as somebody was a blessing to her. And so, I don't want everybody to think it's like a book about the black people and we hate this and it's not. It's
Mhm.
so these stories are so profound because it's their experience and it's their
Yeah.
perspective but they all leave a good ending and a good meaning to each story. And so I definitely want to reiterate that in case somebody joined the podcast later on. Yes. And so thank you so much. And like she said, if you guys haven't had an opportunity to get the book, I'm going to throw a picture of the book back up, and so you guys can see the cover. I'm speaking now. Black women share their truth in 101 stories of love, courage, and hope. Chicken soup for the soul. Y'all, let's give Breena Clarke a round of applause, and we thank you so much for joining us on Erica Lynn Speaks podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And feel free to stick around if you want to. I'm going to take you off, do my closing, and if you can't wait, then I understand. And God bless you. Well, you guys, I don't know about y'all, but I have truly been blessed. You know, I don't know, her voice kind of reminded me of Maya Angelou or something. Just when she was speaking, I just started quibbling and stuff. Like, I was just like, oh my God, you know, it was just so powerful. So I hope you guys really got the message. I hope you go out and get her book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, because that book has not only fed my mind, but I hope it fed your mind as well. Oh, and we got a couple people coming in. Hey, Jalen. He broke his ankle today, y'all. So I guess he'll be watching all my podcasts going forward because he can't walk. Yeah. And thank you, Marva. But like I said, I hope you guys really have got the message. You go on out and get the book. I'll pop the picture up one more time. Chicken Soup for the Soul. Be a blessing to somebody. Like she said, get it as a gift. Share it with someone. Whatever it is that you feel in your heart to do that. But don't do it tomorrow. Don't do it next week. Do it now, right? Oh, no, do it now. Oh, see the blessing. Look, y'all, I feel like I'm about to shout. That is wonderful. And so anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all know it's Friday. A girl got to go get her nails done because I got to show up always correct, right? And so I'm excited because, like I said, God is doing miracles. And he is working things in my life and in my company and with individuals that is connected to me and that I'm connected to. And so thank you all for being connected to me on this podcast. Next week, we have the one and only Dexter Jenkins. He's going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about finances, right? We're going to get you guys together because if your credit is bad, your money ain't right, your mind ain't right, guess when you got to get it right? Now is the time to get your money right so that you can do whatever you want to do, go on vacations, buy houses, whatever it is. Y'all know I'm always bringing something. So if you didn't share this podcast, make sure you share it now to your friends and family so that they can be a blessing. I'm so excited, you guys. I love you all. And I'll see you next Friday at 5 live on Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond you. God bless you. I'll see you guys next week.
Are you ready to become unstoppable? Be bold, live free, and walk in your fearlessness? Are you ready to be courageous? If you are ready to play big and make your mark in life, if you are ready to break free, it is time for you to realize your full purpose in life by allowing Erica Lynn to help you break free from your boundaries. Break free beyond your limitations. Elevate your power. Play big while moving into your biggest step forward in your life. To find out how, go to ericalynnspeaks.com and sign up for the One Step Beyond You signature program today.
This podcast was brought to you by ericalynnspeaks.com. Sign up for your free consultation today at ericalynnspeaks.com/work with me. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond
beyond you. I say Erica Lynn Speaks.